Audible? Good afternoon, Shubha. Am I audible to you? Shubha Vishwakarma, am I audible to you? Okay, fine. Thank you. I've been waiting for the last 15 minutes, and you're the first candidate who has joined in. Thank goodness there are some more. Okay, fine. Right. Now let me share the screen. Is this visible to you? Performance appraisal features? Can somebody unmute yourself and tell me, please? Yeah, fine. Okay. So, to begin with, let's look into an important definition of performance appraisal, which is a continuous process through which an employee's behavior, performance, and accomplishments. Look at this. Performance appraisal is a continuous process where three dimensions are being evaluated. One is the employee, or rather assessed. One is the employee's behavior. The other is his performance on the job, and the third refers to the accomplishments that he has done, say, for a particular period of time, maybe last 1 year. And this is generally for a fixed period of time, which is measured. And here it is important for you to understand that potential appraisal is a factor of performance appraisal. So when you say performance appraisal, assessment of the potential for the future improvement is an integral part of the performance appraisal process. Now, before actually going into the you know what is available in the text, several I have tons of slides for you, but before that I'd like to share the focus group findings of business today, which is a qualitative survey that was being done on performance appraisal and rewards in corporates. So corporate India's performance evaluation systems leaves most managers cold, particularly since it doesn't appear to be connected to rewards. Only those at the senior levels have discovered a link between their assessment and compensation. Of late, we've noticed special attention that is being given to evaluating the performances, and the feedbacks received are being reinforced by the increments that are given. It wasn't like this earlier. See, whenever you see, the CEOs always used to pay more attention to their mid-level managers' pay packet. They are not only unanimous about their being underpaid. They have expressed complaint, particularly the mid-level managers who have reached a level of obsolescence. They say that money I make certainly doesn't match the responsibilities that I shoulder. They also complain about the lack of tax breaks in the structures of compensation packages. Most of them equate the paycheck with their real position in the corporate hierarchy, convinced that the extent and nature of the prerequisites that the company is paying is indicative of the importance of every individual. They have, however, a lot of complaints made. The junior managers are not left out. Their approach is split between short-term and long-term possibilities. In the short term, the short-term approach of junior managers is I want to earn as much as possible, and the long-term approach of these junior managers is I want to learn as much as possible. So CEOs must. It's not enough if they look into the junior managers' ways and needs. It is also important that the CEOs must worry about the rumblings on the shop floor too, because factory workers are quite unhappy about their pay scales. They are also not happy about the small increments, the flat bonuses, and the unrealistic allowances that they get. Now, say for example, when you spend about 100 rupees a month on conveyance, but get just 20 rupees, you will realize just how much the company is thinking about you. So monetary benefits are so meager. It could be a stove or a torch. So it is important that CEOs find a solution. They find a link between compensation and performance. They must also ensure that they link increments to rate of inflation. They must offer higher regular pay, which the workers can factor into their budgets, rather than some unpredictable lump sum payments that they are made in the end. Now, okay, slides not visible, slides not clear. Okay, you can't talk in YouTube, fine. So, right. So I will look into your messages there and there. Now, yeah, I was telling now, see, I'm not going into too many nitty-gritties of these performance appraisal, but I will take you at a much macro level, okay, and tell you what are the challenges facing the corporates on appraisal and reward. See, I'm not changing the slide because this slide, whatever preparation, I can run through it in a jiffy and then tell you. But there are so many highlights that I'd like to share about, more contemporary aspects that I'm not running through these slides. Although I can, do it at the end of it. Now, talking about the challenges facing the performance appraisal and reward mechanisms in corporates, the HR face challenges of having to integrate the evaluation criteria into the corporate objectives. Yet another challenge is to develop and implement a goal setting strategy for the employees. They must design appraisal systems that measure people's potential. They must assess employees on their methods and managing styles. So important. They must make appraisals objective by including multiple points of view, at various hierarchical levels. They must create a mechanism for providing feedback on the evaluation. They must devise a system for assessing and rewarding team performance. They must reward superior performance of individuals. They must ensure internal and external equity in compensation. And finally, they must motivate through monetary and non-monetary rewards. Now, before I actually dwell on how to manage appraisal and reward, let me tell you of all our business processes, none is so mysterious as the one which translate my assessment into my rise. See, each one of us have a right to know how we are being assessed and how it is impacting our compensation. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? Who decided my increment? Does anyone know or even care to know this? Now, these are some of the complaints that executives today make despite receiving 3 increments in 12 months. And this raises a crucial question. Does your customer sign your manager's appraisal forms and write their paychecks? Well, in the post-quality business environment, CEOs are learning a new rule for benchmarking employee performance and in deciding his reward. What is that new rule based on? Customer satisfaction. This customer satisfaction is the source spring of financial profits, of organizational prosperity, and the corporate success. So this becomes the ultimate arbiter. And it is within that framework that organizations have to design an appraisal and reward system where it can attract the best people, retain them, motivate them to give the best. The first casualty under this changed paradigm priorities will be the piecemeal approach to the problem. Andre, where the two elements are neither linked to one another nor are they in tune with company's strategic objectives. One kade increments based on performance, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು kade customer satisfaction. Then tell me, how can a CEO mesh their evaluation and compensation system with one another and with their company's goals? Today, rewards for an employee, say covering both monetary compensation and non-monetary compensation, must fulfill four objectives. Now, what are those four objectives? They must meet his basic needs. It must conform to three parameters. One kade external equity, ಎರಡನೇದಾಗಿ internal equity. The third one is the individual equity. What do you mean by external equity? The first of these three must ensure fairness vis-a-vis compensation standards in the industry. That is your external equity. The internal equity must ensure that there is a fair deal for him within the organization in comparison to his colleagues. And the third one, that is the individual equity, must reward his unique contribution to the company. Crucially, while the first three factors are determined by broad forces, say for example, the cost of living, the rate of inflation, the pay scales of the industry, pay scales within the organization, the company can link the fourth component of employee rewards directly to its strategic goals by ensuring the employees' contributions are being examined and is being achieved. Thus, the CEO will be able to ensure that their pay systems are integrated firmly into their business strategies. And this will provide the opportunity to link the performance appraisal and reward processes into a seamless whole. So, translating the corporate objectives into specific quantifiable goals. Now, within a smart antivi, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and that which has a time frame. Now, by translating the corporate objectives into these smart goals for every employee, will become the cornerstone of the evaluation process. ನಿಮ್ಗಾಗಲೇ ಈಗ ಬೇರೆ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸಲ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡಿರೋರು people may have told you about management by objectives, a mechanism where there is mutual setting of goals, in which you must have been told about KRAs, the key result areas, or the key KPA, the key performance area, which is the target that is being defined for every employee. Well, by setting smart goals for every employee, you would be in a process, this whole mechanism would lead to feedback on how close you are to the achievement of the goals, or if you have deviated, where you have deviated and why you have deviated. So there is a track of events which will take you up till the end of the appraisal period. Thus, a company that needs quick results, for instance, will build short-term goals into its evaluation criteria. However, the nature of the goals will have to be vastly different from today's, number-driven ones, like, sales or budget-oriented objectives. So CEOs must, for instance, be prepared to emphasize the methods used to achieve these numbers as much as the attainment. After all, target chasing employees could easily trample the company's values, do something shortcut. Sometimes their credibility and reputation could be put to stake. They could be very ruthless with the customers in order that they meet the numerical goals. Appraisal systems, therefore, must test employees not just by result-oriented parameters using methods like management by objective, but that is all result-oriented, okay? But also on behavior-oriented dimensions, which focuses on the process. In fact, new dimensions of measuring performance will emerge continuously. The switch to teamwork, you know. For instance, team-based appraisal and reward systems. Attention has to be paid to designing and implementing these team-based appraisal and reward systems. Now, in an age of increased automation, where employee productivity in general and managerial productivity in particular will have to be assessed and reward, this mechanism works wonders. The potential of managers for taking on higher responsibilities, which is reflected not just in the track record but also in their personality traits, in their non-function related abilities, will have to be appraised using methods say like the assessment centers to test the skills and prowess of these managers. Also, companies adopt techniques like this 360-degree evaluation, which allows an employee to be assessed not just by superiors, but also by their peers, subordinates, outsiders to the system, the other stakeholders, say like the customers. So, linking the form of reward to business objectives will yield results too. For instance, startups that need entrepreneurial action from its employees will have to offer a large quantum of cash. Like, it could be in the form of gold linked incentive pay or stock options to link compensation to profits. However, mature companies whose focus is on managing their earnings per share and protecting the market shares, they will have to pay equal attention in seeking out managerial talent, reward it, have flexible, tax-friendly compensation packages with benefits that are designed to improve the quality of life. So, now going to the crux of how to manage appraisal and reward. Let us start with objectives, where objectives are set mutually, where acceptable goals both by the superior and the subordinate sit together and they define the goal against which the individual is going to be appraised. And this should always be linked to the corporate objectives. Let me go to this so that I get here. Okay. So, I was just trying to see in between if there is some chat where, you have stated something. So, now these objectives could be, when I'm going to change the slide next, I will put it forward. Until such time, see, if I put on the if I do the screen sharing, what happens is I get to lose out on any chats that come. And if I were to look at I don't know the provision where I can have both these being played, sharing screen and the chat. So if I'm looking at the chat, I cannot be sharing the screen, at least for some time, until I change my next slide, change on to my next slide. I will have these, chats up here so that in case you have any doubts, you could put forth and I could clarify. So I was talking about the objectives which are mutually set by the superior and the subordinate. They are acceptable goals which are linked to the corporate objectives. And these objectives are so designed where the department level objectives are broken down into managerial level objectives. The managerial level objectives are further broken down into individual level objectives. Collectively, the individual level objectives should satisfy and achieve the managerial level objectives. The managerial level objectives collectively should be able to achieve the department level objectives. Now, coming to the appraisal mechanism, there are two things. As I already told you in the beginning, one is the performance and the other is the potential. Now, both to appraise both performance as well as the potential. Of course, about potential appraisal, I'm going to go in great depth in the coming, slides. But for now, let me tell you that for appraising both the performance and the potential, you need to have job analysis done. Now, this job analysis is the master statement of the various kinds of jobs that need to be operated upon, that need to be operationalized. And second step involves specifying the performance or potential dimensions. Against what specific performance or potential dimension is the appraisal going to take place? The third step is to develop ratings for the program. If where required, you give weightage for each of these performance dimensions. Then you develop scoring procedures, and finally you develop the rater rating, training program. Now, in this process of managing appraisal and reward, individuals are identified with their training needs, they are provided with training, and then you will look into pre-training and post-training, you make an evaluation. And when you do this post-training evaluation, you will be examined, okay, by your boss, the superior, that is, by your peers, people who are working along with you, by your subordinates, those who work under you. Not only that, importantly, you are doing your own appraisal, self-appraisal. You will say on what dimensions you wish to be appraised, and what are the obstacles you had in your achievement of your objectives, what came in your way, and you can always state what is the help or assistance that is required for you to achieve the stated target or objectives. So, and what have your accomplishments been towards the contribution of managerial and departmental goals? So, self-appraisal, opportunity for self-appraisal is there, and then you have customers also to appraise you. So, these are the people who are going to evaluate you. And while the employee is being coached, he gets information through the communication tool, through the motivational tool, through the diagnostic tool. So feedback mechanism will be in operation. Both inputs put together, okay, that is evaluation done by various stakeholders and the feedback that you get for improvement in the form of communication, motivation, and other diagnostic mechanisms will help in your career development. So, now what happens? This has to get reflected. Now, it so happens that, on one side there will be a customer evaluation, whether the customer is happy or not. You cannot work as an individual in an organization. You always have to be a part of the team. So, what is your contribution to teamwork, and how do you function in a flattened structure? These are all the forces of change within which your appraisal and reward mechanisms are managed. Then comes the question of pay review. What factors influence your pay review? It is the market levels, the rate of inflation, and the performance, which will give you the required input for the reward in terms of either promotion, or there is a lateral move where there is something like job enrichment and job enlargement. There could be a task force assignment, or you could be considered for an overseas assignment. You could be considered for a cash reward, which can come either in the form of an increment, a lump sum, an incentive, or a stock option. Or you could also be eligible for some non-monetary rewards. So this is how you go about managing the appraisal and reward. Now, let me go to this. Yeah. Now, can you all see the second slide, please? It is talking about potential appraisal. Can you see? Can somebody give me a, write a chat up here? Did you just now see this potential appraisal? Fine. Okay. So I'm going back to this potential appraisal. It's important. I told you potential appraisal is just a part of the whole process. Now, I will tell you about how Philips, Glaxo, Cadbury, how all these people evaluate and reward managerial potential besides the performance. You see, measuring an employee's potential in order to gauge today what he would achieve tomorrow may be the stiffest challenge ever posed to the science of performance appraisal. In fact, it is said that people are like icebergs. What you see above the surface is only a small part. A large part of your attributes are needed to perform excellently in a future job. This is what I call as potential. It is not something that is immediately visible. It is hidden below the surface. So uncovering the iceberg may be difficult, but it is also critical for corporate survival. See, not only do potential appraisals help in catching the high flyers early, but they also help in creating a snapshot of the talent CEOs are breeding. It is an important area because people have to be prepared to take up higher responsibilities. So, you will see that potential appraisal is an important aspect that companies like, say, Sandoz, Pfizer, Mafatlal, then Philips, Cadbury's, Procter and Gamble, they all have redesigned their systems in recent times, shifting from pure performance orientation to a potential come performance based appraisal system. Now, let me take you to this model, the Philips model. This Philips 2 by 2 matrix, helps combine the element of performance on one side and potential on the other side. So, both elements of performance and potential appraisal are being considered here. The potential to adapt to changing market situations and the potential to assume responsibilities for complex tasks and decisions have to be assessed in a very continuous manner. You see, on the y-axis, you have the potential. And this potential, it is not written here, it is not shown in this slide. On the y-axis is the potential, and this potential may be either high or low. And on the x-axis, you will see the performance, and the performance may be either low or high. So two elements are being considered here, both the potential and the performance. Y-axis talks about the potential, which may be low or high, and x-axis talks about the performance, which may be again low or high. Now, in the matrix, the vertical axis, as I told you, which measures the potential, and the horizontal axis, which measures the performance. Now, both are further subdivided into two parameters, high and low, resulting in the 4 quadrants of classification. Now, let's examine when an individual is low in terms of performance and low in terms of potential. That is, low potential, low performance. Now, these are the employees whom we refer to as question mark, because they're low in performance, they're low in potential, they're not contributing in any way. So the company asks such employees to improve their performance levels. And if that effort fails, then the next step is towards a planned separation. Then coming to individuals who are high in terms of potential but low in terms of performance. Andre, they are individuals who have a low, enough skills. They have everything within they have the capabilities, okay, to perform very well, high in terms of potential, but currently they are not performing. These are referred to as the problem children. See what happens. How do you handle these problem children? They are high in potential, other perform marta illa. So in such a case, if you move their location or move the location of the boss or change the job profile or make some structural changes, these people become star performers. To tap their potential, such employees are given a new scenario. In order to tap their potential, they are asked to work in a different environment and they are being closely monitored. However, if performance levels still remain low, they are reclassified as question marks and the separation process is initiated. So, problem children are not problematic unless you make an effort to unearth their potential, give them the necessary impetus, and then move them to be star performers. If after having provided them with opportunities, okay, of addressing their problems, still they don't perform, then they will be moved down to planned separation. And then we have the next quadrant where it is one of high potential and high performance. Individuals who are high on potential, highly capable of doing future jobs, undertaking future responsibilities, very confident, knowledgeable, well trained, highly skilled, and are high performers too. Now they are like the race horses. They have to be kept engaged with complex assignment because that gives them the real kick. The challenging assignments itself act as motivators, giving them that internal drive. And these people have to be engaged all the time. They have to be groomed to take on the next higher positions in the organization, top positions, or else they will leave. They are referred to as star performers, high in terms of potential and high in terms of performance. Then you have who are called as solid citizens. Now they are the people who are low in terms of potential but are high performers. Currently in the job that they are performing, they are excellent in their operation. They are exceedingly good. But when it comes to learning new skills, new abilities, new knowledge, probably because they would have crossed their mid-career, they would be low in terms of their potential. So these solid citizens are high skilled but limited capacity to grow beyond the current job profile. So these are the people who are referred to as solid citizens, and the company has to constantly recognize their limitations and look after their needs, provide them opportunities for retrain. So Philips has adopted this potential appraisal system where it uses 5-point grading scale such as excellent, very good, adequate, weak, and insufficient to evaluate employees on 4 broad categories. I will tell you what the 4 broad categories are. So the potential appraisal criteria, where I am talking about the 4 broad attributes, I must say, they are conceptual effectiveness, operational effectiveness, interpersonal effectiveness, and achievement motivation. Let us look at what each of these dimensions entail. When you say conceptual effectiveness, it is at a very macro level, understanding the vision of the organization and being able to translate the organizational vision into departmental vision and counter in individual vision, personal vision. Business orientation, what is the business into? Having a broad purview of having a bird's eye view or knowledge of how the business operates. Having an entrepreneurial orientation, being as you know, they have to own the whole process and act as if they are the entrepreneurs, they are mooting the whole business. And do they have a sense of reality? Now, operational effectiveness, yet another dimension against which the individual's potential is appraised. Is the individual result oriented? Is the individual effective in his job? Is he a risk taker? And what is his effectiveness in terms of being able to control people, process? When I say control, it means on the positive side, ability to influence his followers, and when it comes to systems, ability to control the process. And then the interpersonal effectiveness. How good is he when it comes to teamwork? How good is he when it comes to working with peers? Does he have a network directedness so that people would follow him? Does he have negotiating power? Does he possess personal influence? Does he have the charisma? Can he be a transformational leader? And what is his verbal behavior, his conduct, his communication, his body language, all of this, and his ability to communicate, okay, his ability to report, his ability to instruct, all of these things, and his acceptance in the minds of people. That is also very, very important when we talk about interpersonal effectiveness. And the fourth quadrant that talks about achievement motivation. Is he internally driven? Okay. Does he have a professional ambition? Is he open for novelty? Is he innovative? Or is the individual going in, looks for stability? So you are examining the individual in terms of all of these criteria. So this is as far as the potential appraisal is concerned. Now, I would like to ask you to pose some questions if you have at any point not understood any aspect of the concept that I have so discussed. You can put a message on the chat. How do I get to see? One second. In this, I'm not able to find out the purpose of attendance. Yeah, any questions from the audience? Anybody with any question? Fine, I'm glad, Sadhana, you have responded. You see, I would like to I would like to ask you all one thing. See, there are two ways of teaching this whole thing. One is giving you by going by that substandard, guide-like thing where you say definition, then go by nature, scope of this, whatever, and like guide-like ways of spoon feeding, and the other is to expect you to read these because this is in a distant education mode. I expect you to have some knowledge because you know what is the subject that is going to be done in the 6 days. So you know what are the topics that are there. You can come prepared for the topic, and when I top it with some of the latest contemporary information, it will add value to you. But if I again take you back to whatever that old haggard note of what is performance appraisal, what is the definition, what is the scope, objectives, I think the purpose of such lecture mechanisms is not served if we, go by this. What do you say? I want some feedback from you. Otherwise, there's no point. Yes, I have been talking all this time. I have shared the slides. I have told you, what is the context in which this is being discussed. So, Shankara, these were the 3 slides that I've used today, and it was up for you to see. Yes, Shankara, did you get my point? Yeah, I can't see. I am not used to putting the slide and reading everything word by word that a third standard child can do. If I have to read every word of what is being written in the slide, yeah, exactly. Instead of going by the book, that you can anybody read. Anybody who knows English can read those books. Why should it be a narration of the content of a book again here? I think, yes, my friends. See, most of you, I'm sure, are coming to the distant education, are people who have come voluntarily to pursue your higher education. Being that, it is your onus to devote some time to textual reading, and then go on listening to what is what is otherwise not available in the regular textbook form. I personally feel so. And if you still, if majority of you still want me to go use the old pattern, for that I'm still ready. Let me just give you a glance of the whole thing that I have made. See, now I have just spoken about potential appraisal. I can take you through all of these things. See, I have about 58 slides where I talk about the entire performance appraisal mechanism. So I'm not sure whether I must go by that or I must see. Personally, I feel I will continue to follow this practice and see as how it goes for 1 or 2 days, and then maybe I can also top it with whatever slides that I have, which I can run in 10-15 minutes just like that, and give you a quick glance of what is expected of you to know, also from the examination point of view. And I think that way it satisfies 2 sets of students. One who want to go by the textbook, mechanism, and those who are eagerly and willingly wanting to know more. Anyway, for the benefit of you all, let me, before I close, tell you about some of the best practices that have been followed by organizations. Now, for example, Glaxo uses psychometric tests for examining the potential appraisal of its employees. Cadbury's previews its appraisals based on some generic competencies like, say, job knowledge, thinking clearly, goal setting. Today, what we have done this. Okay, no textbook. Okay, so goal setting and planning. Then other competencies like relationships, leadership, motivation, innovation. Now, these are all some of the generic competencies on the basis of which categories previews the appraisals. And we have, as I already told you, this Phillips uses this high-low matrix. Some of the best practices that these companies use, let me tell you, They build the appraisal and reward of potential, both building the appraisal and reward based on potential. They draw it into their appraisal system, assessment system. Secondly, they clearly separate reward for potential from reward for past performance. There are two things, you see. They are not to be clubbed. Reward for past performance vis-a-vis reward for potential. So it is important to separate reward for potential. Another best practice is to start evaluating potential as early as possible to identify the best talent. And it is important that organization factor the certain criteria for evaluating potential and keep that informed to every employee. They must be aware against which factor their potential is being examined. And they have to communicate potential assessment to each individual at regular intervals. So, by this, they are able to do the appraisal. I mean, of possibly the hidden ability of the individual. Now, may I request you to explain slide by slide. This will be useful for us to refer for exam. My friend, please understand that if you go by my slide, you will never pass. The reason is there is much more to slide than, much more to that. And there is at the postgraduate level, you are required to read a lot of material from the textbook. The slides are only an aid to me to remind me as I go through the flow, yes, this is what is to be covered. And my slides are so telegraphic that it is only an indicator to me as to what is hidden. Okay. And please don't go by the slide. You will not be able to, however, achieve your dreams. However, I do not want to dissatisfy you. Let me quickly take you through this. Now, coming to this appraisal process, it evaluates. It's an examination, an assessment where the employee's current and past performance are being examined against performance standards. And an appraisal would involve setting work standards. That is the planning that is being done in the initial, assessing the actual performance vis-a-vis the standard set, and providing the feedback to the employee on the deviations, or on it is also possible that they may be outperforming the standards, providing them the required feedback. Now, this is what I have used as a as my as a pointer to me. Will this be enough for you to write in the examination as an appraisal process? Certainly not. I think you should go beyond this. Now, why should you appraise the performance? The inputs, feedback that you so derive out of appraising performance will lend itself for several other policy decisions, right from your manpower planning process up to the point of organizational exit. In one context or the other, it comes as an input. The appraisals will provide information for purposes of your lateral or vertical or horizontal movement within the organization. It will provide information in terms of job evaluation and therefore the salary decisions. It provides opportunity to review an employee's work related to his behavior, as well as in aspects where for purposes of improvisation and correcting deficiencies. See, for during counseling, we draw information from here because that will act as an input to be able to use for correcting deficiencies. During the counseling exercise, you may use this. You may also use work related behavior, particularly when it comes to socializing, the ability to influence people, teamwork, all these aspects you could get input from here. And this is a part of the career planning process. Performance appraisal and career planning, they all go hand in hand, and in the process also acts as an input for manpower planning. Appraisals help managers improve the organization's overall performance. Now, let me talk to you about a very important aspect, which is one of designing a performance appraisal system that I think this I shall keep it for the, because this is very elaborate and very important. I think I shall keep this for the next class. And I know that 4 o'clock you have one more session. I do not want to come and eat into that. If there are any questions as of now, please go ahead. And tomorrow's session I would continue with what did I stop at? Yes, I stopped at designing a performance appraisal system or mechanism. So any questions now at this point? We have about another 3-4 minutes. And if you have any questions, please feel free. Otherwise, I will call it a day. Well, thank you very much. I suppose I should close now and pay way for the next session. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.